Hello!
Hello!
Welcome to episode 9 of Just Dykin Around. We have friends with us today.
Oh,
Hi. Hello.
what's up? We are the Librorians here today.
I'm Anderson.
And I'm Luca. Our podcast is about books, and mostly gay books,
And bad
and also
books.
bad books.
Very bad books.
Yes.
We've collected quite a few Reddit stories. Why don't we jump in with Am I the Asshole for Refusing to Lend a Friend My Books Anymore? This is from r/Am I the Asshole from username Horselove67456. I really don't think I'm the asshole here, but everyone around me seems to think I am. So here I am coming to Reddit. I, 21 female, have a massive book collection. Good for you. They are my babies. I have spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars since high school on my books. I have 3 huge bookshelves, and I also have like 6 of those cool floating bookshelves you get off of Amazon. So yeah, my books mean a lot to me. I'm active on Bookstagram and always post reviews. Last week, I let my friend Maya, 22 female, borrow one of my books. One of my favorite ones too, actually. Don't do that. It was my holiday edition copy of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Okay, well, it's Fourth Wing.
if
So
you're
I'm sorry.
Fourth Wing.
I
There's
know.
a billion of them. You're fine. You are the asshole for saying no. It was goddamn Fourth Wing. All right, no, I'm sorry. I understand.
Go get it from the library. Next one.
I can't decide if they're more the asshole
For
for
it being
upset about lending Fourth Wing out to their friend, or if they're more the asshole for sharing the book that is Fourth Wing, for cursing another brain
So
with the book that is Fourth Wing.
It's gonna have to be one that we read at some point.
don't even start with
Okay.
me. In my professional opinion, this is my bookshelf. We're in my office right now. I'm not a fervent collector of collector's editions, but I do have a few of them. I had a signed copy of Mark of Athena somewhere on my shelf. And I also have signed copies of the Legendborn cycle, and collector's editions of those.
Did you lend it to your best friend?
No, I would never.
Exactly. If it's your,
even
if it's
even
one
to
of
my
your favorite
best
books,
friend. Even to my best friend. Even to you.
either get a new copy that you don't mind lending, or tell them to get it from the library.
Right. See, I may have a different opinion on this. This is gonna sound bad coming from a librarian, but I don't care about my books. Like, my books are just objects that I own. And,
Yes, that's fair.
for me, once I'm done with a book, whether I love it or not, it's the story that's special to me, and that's in my brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for me, I wouldn't care. If it, because I have a copy of my favorite book and I've kept it, and that's, that's over the top for me just to keep it, because usually I will donate a book after I'm done with it. And I don't reread either, which you think is ridiculous.
I do think that's ridiculous.
But yeah, I'm not a collector at all of books. There are other items that I own that I would be I would never lend this out to anyone, but my books, no.
I completely agree with you. I do want to quickly finish this story
Yes,
so
yes.
we can really go in on it. I have rules for when people borrow my books. One of them being, please use a bookmark and I'll give you one if you don't have one. She agreed to my rules. Fast forward to yesterday. She hands me back my book and it was destroyed. The dust jacket had rips in it. Apparently her dog attacked it. The pages had water damage because apparently she read it in the bath and dropped it in, and there was a coffee cup stain on the actual hardcover of the book. I was so mad and calmly told her she would not be allowed to borrow a book from me again because of how she returned it. And I asked her to please pay me back for the cost of the book, and I asked her to leave. She texted me later saying I was dramatic and an asshole, and it was just a book, and our other friends agreed with her, but I'm like, I know it's just a book, but that's the point. Am I the asshole here?
I
No.
wouldn't have asked for her to pay for it.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't
that's,
let her borrow
I feel like
anything
that's a little too
anymore.
much. But being
Yeah.
I'm never giving you a book again. Please leave my home. I think that's enough.
When it comes to books, I'm the same as you. For me, it's about the story itself. I don't care about fancy collectors, whatever. A book is the plate that the food comes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a delivery system to get the story into my brain. I don't really care about the physical object. However, I do have certain things that hold a lot of meaning to me that I wouldn't necessarily say I collect, but I can understand having something that means a lot to you, and you should have the self-awareness to not be lending that out to anybody. I kind of think everyone sucks here because the OP, I think for them to lend out something they care about to a friend is just, don't do that. At the same time, her friend, I think, is also kind of a bigger asshole. If someone is lending you something and they're like, hey, It's really important. Like, these are the rules. It's really important you use a bookmark. I'll give you one. Like, pick up on the context clues.
Mhm.
Clearly, they care about this book. So don't bring it into a bath. You have a feral dog.
Feral dog.
Don't, like, keep it out of your dog's reach. Don't let the whatever, the book cover, have, like,
Coffee
stains on it.
I
Like,
want to know what the fucking series of events was that this person went through when they were reading.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
did you get caught in a hurricane with, like, feral dogs all around you, like, while you were reading Fourth Wing? Like, sit on the couch and read like a normal person, maybe. Mostly I do read in the bath, but I wouldn't do that with anyone else's book. I'll also take my phone in the bath or my Switch.
Your Switch?
Because I hold it up and I make sure that it doesn't touch the water. But yeah, I used to take really long baths when I lived in my parents' house because I wasn't paying for water. I think she learned a valuable lesson to never, like, also lend out her super valuable books again. And let me just say, at the beginning of this with the username, I was so caught on the horse love username that I was like, this is like 3 shelves full of, like, signed immaculate editions of Saddle Club.
Also, the holiday edition of Fourth Wing? First off, what holiday? Which
Horny
holiday?
for Fairies Day? I don't know. Is that
Okay,
the one with the
first off,
fairies? I don't
That's
know.
not the
That's
one
a
with the
dragon.
dragon. That's a dragon one. But they're not horny
okay.
for the dragons, I don't think.
They're horny, like...
for the people who ride the
No,
dragon.
Yeah.
okay, no. I'm pretty sure that this is the case, not because I've read these books, but because I follow Reads with Rachel, and
Hey! My friend
yeah.
reads with Rachel.
yeah, and Don't Fret Read Books. I watched both of them, and they both had books on. They both had videos on all the books. I'm pretty sure that in Fourth Wing, the main character and the love interest have sex with each other via their dragons somehow. It's like their minds are like in. They like occupy
like
their dragons'
like
minds
that
or something, and then the
Avatar,
dragons fuck.
like
Yeah,
hair
it's
sex.
like that. There's a tail thing.
Yes!
Yeah, the hair.
Yes, I don't know if that counts as being horny for the dragons because they are kind of fucking each other as dragons. I don't know if that. I don't know. I don't understand how straight women
Sounds
have
like
sex.
an amazing book.
That's like
Peak literature.
being horny and dragons are involved,
Yeah.
I guess. Like,
Jane Austen, who, Oliver Twist, what?
romance at its finest.
Romance at its finest. Jesus.
Colleen Hoover can never.
She
Oh my
might,
God.
honestly,
She might.
at this
She might
point.
delve into the fantasy.
Yeah,
No, because
why
you know
not?
what? Are you guys familiar with the author Allie Hazelwood?
think
She
so.
wrote Love Theoretically is her newest one.
Love on the Brain, Love
not-
Hypothesis.
Check and Mate.
Oh,
So they
I've
all
heard-
have Canva
yeah.
covers, and it's the women and STEM.
They're all Raylo
stuff.
fanfics.
And it's the one that
Oh.
is famously a Raylo fanfic.
It's just
Oh,
Adam
that's right,
Driver.
yes.
It's just
Still
Adam
Love
Driver on that
Hypothesis.
cover.
Yeah. So her newest release that just came out is she like switched gears from the women in STEM thing, and now she's writing like fully published like alpha omega like
ABO, vampire,
Yeah.
werewolf,
like
erotica.
Omega-verse.
And this is
Maybe-
how some normies are fighting out about like nodding and stuff.
Yeah.
maybe you should check that out, Jackie.
Oh, are you a
No.
connoisseur? Do you partake?
Listen. Only specific
I'm actually making you blush. I think this is the first time I've ever made you blush on the podcast.
because it's in front of other people. It's in front of our friends. So, it's only specific. Like, I wouldn't be able to read it if it's just some random couple, but like because I read Supercorp fan fiction, it has to be like a specific
Hey, I love
pairing.
Supercorp.
Otherwise it'd be
bros.
just a little too different for me.
I already know what's happening in those Supercorp fics. I can read it. I can see it on your face.
Circling back to my original point was that like contemporary romance authors that were just writing like romances are now getting into like fanfic territory with their like actual published
That bitch was writing
stuff.
fanfic to begin with.
I mean, yeah, she was. That's so
Probably-
true.
But
That's
yeah,
so
it's probably
true.
like you have to start out kind of like normal, I guess, and get
Yeah.
your fan base, and then you can start doing the other stuff, the more out there stuff, and
She was like, after these 4 books come out, I can finally put out my Omega verse.
My Raylo
my
Omega
true
verse book.
calling, my true calling of ABO.
Do you watch ContraPoints on YouTube?
I have not, no.
Oh, you are in for a treat. So ContraPoints she is the queen, the goddess, the master of YouTube. She's incredible. She puts out these incredible insightful, philosophical, brilliant genius. Never been done before, incredible video essays. And literally there's one that just came out a couple days ago, and I just finished watching it at the gym today. So it's about Twilight. The title of it is Twilight, but it's about like sex and death and God and romance and erotica, and like it's about so much more. Like I wasn't even into Twilight, but like I loved every minute of this video. It was fascinating. She talks about desire and why these romantic stories are so attractive to female audiences who historically tend to not really have erotic or, you know, kind of sexy stories targeted towards them. And it's just fascinating. I need to watch it like at least 3 more times to grasp all the points she's making, but it is absolutely fascinating. Highly recommend it.
That sounds really interesting.
I unironically love the Twilight movie, so I will probably be watching this later tonight.
You absolutely have to. It's a 3-hour long video. So
beautiful. Perfect.
It's massive. I watched
While
it
I do
over
my
like
laundry.
4 sessions. Most romance is directed towards like heterosexual dynamics, right? And it features heterosexual dynamics and it's targeted towards straight women. And talking about these tropes where, you know, the women are like, take me, you know, and like how, like, is that healthy? Is it like a product of conditioning? Like all of that. And she talks about, and obviously like, we don't know for sure, but it's all philosophy. It's all, you know, pondering and thinking about these things. And one of the most interesting points is that if there was such a clear cut, you know, women want to be desired and women want to be rescued and women, that is all that women want, then there wouldn't be such a demand for like, because both Stephanie Meyer and then whoever the fuck wrote the 50 Shades.
E.L. James.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Stephanie
I have
Meyer
that
and E.L.
unlocked.
James both wrote gender swapped versions of the story, like from the male perspective. And so if women exclusively wanted to, you know, identify with this female character and the roles that she has within the story, then there wouldn't be such a demand for these gender swapped versions. So there's this theory that when, you know, women enjoy these erotic sensual stories, it's not just the desire of being desired, but there's also, in reading these stories, the female reader also gets to a certain degree identify with the male character who represents power and access to resources. So it was just fascinating. Yeah.
Really interesting. I should watch. I'm gonna watch this when I get home.
Yeah. And I'm not even like scratching the surface. Like she makes so many brilliant, mind blowing. Like there were so many times I was on the treadmill and I would just like pause the video because I needed to like mentally digest what she had just said. Absolutely fascinating. Highly recommend.
And out of the news, I think that OP and everybody sucks in that Reddit post, I think. Yeah, right?
Oh,
We're all
yeah.
in agreement?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fourth wing,
In varying
automatic.
degrees, yes,
Yeah.
everyone sucks.
I'm still thinking holiday edition.
I don't know which holiday.
Which holiday?
Halloween,
Kwanzaa.
Easter.
every single holiday.
Hanukkah.
There's a different
Yom
holiday
Kippur,
edition
yeah.
of
St. Patrick's Day,
of
Arbor
Fourth
Day.
Wing.
Arbor Day edition.
St. Patrick's Day edition of Fourth Wing.
There's this one, am I the asshole for reading romance novels despite it making my boyfriend uncomfortable? r/am I the asshole by username ok-emu9415. I, 29 female, am a huge lover of romance novels. Doesn't matter how bad or trashy they are, they're fun to just veg out to as they require very little focus. I do enjoy more nuanced books too, but they require more focus and I don't always have the energy for that. I've currently been binging all of Susan Trombley's books. 10 out of 10 would recommend if you like the sci-fi, fantasy, romance novels. My boyfriend, 30 male, has never liked me reading these kinds of books in our 2 years of dating as they make him uncomfortable. So I stopped reading them around him. I figure while not every book in this genre is pornographic, a fair few are, so that was likely why he was uncomfortable, so I didn't push further. We are discussing moving in together, and he has told me he doesn't want my books on the bookshelves as it's embarrassing to have them out in the open like that. I told him if he'd prefer, I'd keep them on a bookshelf that isn't in the living room of the house where guests could see it. But no, turns out he doesn't want them on a bookshelf at all. I ended up asking him what the hell his issue was and told him they were harmless. He has told me I make him feel uncomfortable by enjoying these kinds of books as they seem low intelligence. And And that I also
Question,
make him...
does this man watch porn?
I was just about to say it. I was like, I would love to know about this man's porn habits.
Oh, and they also make him feel less like he's not enough. I told him that
Well, then do better.
Why is he threatened by fictional men?
What?
Exactly. I told him, of course, he's enough, and pointed out how him watching porn doesn't mean I'm not enough for him. Exactly.
Oh my god.
He refuses to see the similarity. I always figured it was harmless to read these kinds of books. I don't get why it makes him so uncomfortable. Maybe I'm the asshole for still reading them despite knowing he feels this way? No, you're not. No. You're not.
No. Vehemently
You do
not
you.
the asshole. Kill your boyfriend.
He's insecure as fuck, and I don't know why he's threatened by fictional men. That's weird. At one point in my life, I grappled with feeling like... This was like when I had my first boyfriend and I was 14, and I was like, it's weird that you watch porn. Like, you shouldn't do that. But then, you know, I became not 14, and not insecure about that. Maybe stop acting like you're 14 and become less insecure about fictional men stealing your girl.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
Also, the fact that reading is a hobby for her, it's something she enjoys, but he doesn't see these books as like representative of her hobby. He sees them as like a reflection on him of like, oh, I need my girlfriend to be a thing that does hobbies that I approve of. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting the vibes that he like doesn't see her as like a person, and he may not even like have the words to express where that discomfort is coming from. But I wonder whether the discomfort is actually because a lot of straight men are uncomfortable with the idea of their girlfriends and their wives like sexuality, because we live in a culture that teaches both men and women that men pursue women because men want sex and women don't. And it's women's jobs to like deny men sex until they're like, I don't know, until not, you know, all the double standards and bullshit.
Till
like
marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
Till marriage.
And so I wonder, not even because again, like a
Yeah,
lot
you
of
have to-
men
be
are
like,
like, my
no.
girlfriend doesn't put out. Like, so there's all these
She
weird
has a
expectations.
headache. She had a headache. There was that one guy that made a spreadsheet about every time his wife said no.
Oh my god.
I saw that.
Yeah. And like the reason she gave. And I was like,
That's
this is
so
grounds
much.
for divorce for
This
her.
And a restraining order. Like,
Yeah,
holy crap,
honestly,
that's so creepy.
I did Google Susan Trombley. She writes alien love letters from Throck. With love. Description. Can a grieving widow find love again with an alien who's more tree than human and whose touch is toxic? And
What
the
is
cover...
this man insecure about these?
This is...
A tree,
I need you to look up
tree
the
alien.
Yeah.
Is that what she's
This is a cover.
reading?
Yeah, these are the covers. There's like a
So
lizard
this is
man.
what the woman in the story is reading,
one of the
and
books.
so he's threatened by Thok.
He's definitely not doing his job in the bedroom. She's
Oh,
not.
God.
She's just having fun. This is like Chuck Tingle levels of
Exactly.
like kind of ridiculous.
Like, how can he not read that this is just like a fun little fantasy thing that she's doing? Like, it's not. It doesn't mean anything.
I'm not a tree. I can't live up to these expectations.
Yeah.
God.
I come from Earth. I can't do this.
Can't probe you.
Oh, I mean, you can if you try hard enough.
Try harder.
I have a theory that he's uncomfortable with her having any semblance of desire, even if it's like the most ridiculous, campy, like over the top.
If
like,
it's not directed at him anyway.
yeah,
This is almost definitely one of many red flags.
Not the asshole, murder your boyfriend.
Yeah. Keep reading your books.
Keep
girl.
reading your books, girl.
Yeah.
Slay
Keep
queen.
reading your your tree alien books.
Also, the fact that he
alien.
was like, it's not intellectual
I support
enough.
women's wrongs.
Like, does
Yeah,
everything he does is intellectual then? Like, everything needs to reflect into, like,
how intelligent is
intelligently?
the porn that he watches? How smart is that?
like, that's like looking at, like, the porn he's watching and being like, this isn't high film.
This isn't avant-garde
Film.
enough.
Exactly. Okay, let's do this one. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend listening to audiobooks does not count as reading? By username Rats Are Witches.
Slay.
When me and my girlfriend met, being a book nerd was a big part of her identity. She read regularly and even volunteered at her local library. Books were kind of her life, and she even had ambitions to work for the library.
Yes.
As an avid reader myself, it is one of the things that attracted me to her. Fast forward a year and a half or so later, and I can't even remember the last time I saw her reading a book. A username of hers came up in conversation, and the username references her being a book nerd. I pointed out that she doesn't read anymore, and therefore is not a book nerd, and should make a different username. She defended herself, saying that she is still a book nerd because she regularly listens to audiobooks. I tried to explain to her this is not the same, because listening to something doesn't take as much brain power as reading it does. I don't think that's how that works.
Process words.
Yeah. Audiobooks
Okay,
are like
sir.
the cheap, easy version of a real book. I don't think someone who listens to the number of typos, sir, go read a fucking
His
spelling
brain
book.
is working too hard reading. He can't
I'm like going into a rage right now. I'm like,
I don't think someone who listens to bools, he means books, but he's a terrible speller. Someone who listens to bools can classify themselves as a reader. I even told her I felt she was somewhat dishonest when we first started dating, since she made it seem like books were so important to her, but now she doesn't read at all. She got mad at me and said I'm pretentious and a paper snob.
Is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
This guy is like a walking well, actually.
Yeah. Also, like, are you gonna like turn around and say to someone who's like visually impaired, you're not reading any books because you're listening to them? Like,
Could you imagine? Can you imagine
Right?
like having the gall to say that to someone?
you know, to a,
Right?
I feel like that doesn't count, right?
and, like a delivery driver who probably doesn't have enough time to like
Yeah.
go down, like sit down and read a book.
Oh my god, I listened to so
Right.
many books when I was delivering pizzas.
also, like, why does it matter? Like, grow up, number one. Number two, the written word is like, it's a delivery system for the information.
Right.
Like, it's about the information itself.
Brain has to process both ways. So whether you're reading or listening to something, your brain is processing the information that you're receiving, and so it's really no
Mhm.
different.
In library science, this is about to get nerdy and a little bit technical.
Ooh.
When you catalog books, there are different categories, to put this in layman's terms, for like, you know, the story, the delivery system of the story, and things. So like, you learn to think about a story as like an idea and a concept, and then the book as the mode of kind of transportation, so to speak, for that story to get to the reader. And so it's still the same story, whether it's on CD, whether it's on an ebook, whether it's in like the written word. It's just a different like way for that book to get to the audience.
This is like a very cyclical like drama that keeps coming up every 5 months. Some idiot goes on to Twitter or Reddit or whatever and be like, audiobooks don't count. The graphic novels don't count. Manga doesn't count. All this bullshit, right? And I feel like we are like 2 steps away from somebody being like, paperback books don't count. If you read
Hardbacks only.
Yeah, hardbacks only. If you read an ebook on your phone, that doesn't count.
If you're not experiencing the book slipping out of the jacket while you read it.
yeah.
If you can't drop your book into the bathtub and have the
Only-
pages
you can
get
only-
wet and wrinkly.
Yeah, and return it to your friend. If you don't take your friend's holiday edition of Fourth Wing, that doesn't count.
This is the problem. If she was listening to an audiobook,
She wouldn't have had
that
this
book
problem.
never would have gotten eaten by rabid dogs and destroyed in the bathtub and a hurricane.
Yeah, but I feel like we're like, okay, someone's about to say like, if you read your ebook on your phone and not on a Kindle, that doesn't count. Or if you read it on like a Nook and not a Kindle, that doesn't. Like we're this close. We're so close to that, and I'm kind of excited to see what happens when it does happen. I just want to see what the fallout's going to look like.
I feel like you would have more insight onto like the differences between like auditory processing and like visual processing and the differences and
I'm bad at
similarities. No, I would say because you're a psychology major.
Oh, I was a psychology major.
I was saying you probably have more insight into like the way that those are just 2 different modes to pick up information.
Yeah.
You know, for your brain.
Well, yeah. For the most part, yes, reading is how you get like more information because your brain has to sit down and process it a little bit more. But you can still get the same information without much. Like it's only like a marginal difference between the two. So again, it doesn't really matter as long as you feel as though you are retaining the information and can accurately recall it. And at the end of the day, who gives a shit? Also, the fucking username bullshit where he was like, your username says that you like books, and that's lying.
Oh my god.
I'm like, do you know how complicated it is to change a username these days? Getting a good, brandable username that you can use across all social media that doesn't have any numbers in it, that's the holy grail. You want that. And so changing your username I'm not doing that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry that my thing was books for 12 years.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of these men, they just treat their girlfriends as like tools for their own social advancement.
Extensions of themselves, and if they're not doing the things that they like, the girlfriends are not doing the things that the boyfriends like, then that's bad, and it looks poorly on them.
I want you to be an object that I can put in my arsenal of objects that show like my interest in who I am, and I want you to look a certain way and behave a certain way that I'm prescribing to you so that you can fit
it makes me
my idealized life.
Exactly, right. You can make me look good. It's like, sir, it's your job to make yourself look good. Go be a good person, and then people will see you in a good light. It's not on anyone else around you to reflect well on you. That's all you.
I'm also just thinking about, he was like, I haven't seen her picked up a book in like a year and a half. I'm like, also, like, even if she wasn't reading, like, why do you give a shit? Interests change. Like, she might just be busy. Like, she might just not want to read anymore. That just might not be something that she's interested in. And that's fine. Why are you gonna why does he feel like he's been deceived? Because she's like, I haven't picked up a book in a year. Like,
it feels like the same thing as when your parents are like, oh, I never see you studying, or something like that. Or like, I never see you doing homework. And you're like,
I never see you taking a shit, and I know you're doing one. Like,
why do you need to see her reading?
Right, exactly. And like, if you're, which I don't think is the case here, he's just being a dick. But if it's the kind of thing, because sometimes that does happen where like, you start a relationship and you and your partner really enjoy a certain hobby, and then your partner just kind of like isn't as into that hobby anymore. You can invite them to like, to return to the hobby. You can be like, hey, let's go to the bookstore together and like find a book that we're going to read together, or let's have a date night at the library. If you actually genuinely miss engaging in this hobby with your partner, you don't have to be a petty bitch about it. You can just be like, hey, remember when we used to read to each other or read together? That was really great. I love doing that. How about we do that on our next date night? There's ways to bring these up and like use that to build connection rather than create distance and just like judge her for no reason.
Right, yeah. Like, if, like, my girlfriend is an artist, so like, and that was like, one of the first things she told me about her, because it's really important to her. It's like gonna be her career when she graduates college in like a month. So it's like, if I saw that she wasn't drawing as much, like, I would be like, hey, are you in a slump? Like, is something wrong? Like, do you want to go to the art store? Like, something like that, like, to, like, just be encouraging and check in. I wouldn't be like, you're not an artist anymore, are you? Like, you
better delete your artist Instagram. Yeah. The fuck? I haven't seen you pick up a fucking charcoal pencil in 2 weeks.
You're not an artist anymore.
Yeah. I bet he also would be judging her for the books that she's reading.
Probably. I feel like maybe this is the same guy.
Same guy.
So that's probably a good place to end for like our episode.